I want to start this episode with a personal story. Today we're talking about rest and burnout. And a number of years ago, when I was working on a different business, I had an events company for 13 years, I was flying high. We were experiencing our best years ever, the most profit we'd ever seen, 8-figure years. We had 45 staff members across Australia, New Zealand, and in the US. And on the outside, I was thriving. I had found a level of success that was beyond my dreams, and especially way beyond where I was when I started my first business at age 27. Now, to the person looking in, I had found success. But if you peeled back those outside layers, you'd have witnessed a completely different story. I was working across multiple time zones. I was pulling incredibly long hours. I was barely sleeping. I was eating anything and everything just to stay fueled. I did not have a healthy social life. I wasn't prioritizing my own health and well-being, and I reached a point where I was well beyond burnout. And one day, I can still see it so clearly, I was on a call with my then marketing assistant. We were in the middle of a meeting, and all of a sudden, I just keeled over to the left and ended up on the floor next to my desk. I began to throw up. My vision started to go blurry. It was like my body was literally telling me that I needed to do something different, that I needed to rest, that I needed to clean up my act. My body physically couldn't take it anymore. And it was like a wake-up call. Frankly, it was the wake-up call I really needed to change how I was living my life. And even though I was the most successful I had ever been in my business and financially, even though the business was thriving, even though the outside looked great, I was the definition of a business owner who had made it on the outside. And I'm so thankful I listened to my body. I realized that I did needed rest, deep rest. And I don't mean just that I needed to sleep. I needed to rest my body, yes, but I also need to rest my mind, my soul, my emotions, pretty much everything. And so I did. Not long after that, I moved back to Australia. I stopped doing these insanely long hours. I found a gym. I cleaned up my act all over. And I found interests outside of the business. I also carved out more time for me. And since that time, I've discovered that I'm much more multifaceted than I once thought. I love my business, yes. But I love to hike, I love to run, I love to go to restaurants with friends, I love to discover new places to eat, I love to see the world, I love getting out of the weeds in my business and thinking big and being strategic. I love helping other women achieve their business dreams. So as you listen to this episode, I want you to remember that you too are multifaceted. We're going to be talking about the importance of rest in business, and I want you to be thinking about how you can prioritize the other parts of you, not just the business owner part, while you continue to grow your business. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Her Business Podcast. I'm Susie, and today we're talking about something that many high-achieving women consider to be one of the most difficult tasks to prioritize in their businesses. Nope, it's not about sales and marketing funnels, and it's not about balancing your books each quarter, which I hope you do, or getting into the numbers, and it's not even about creating a plan for steady growth and cash flow. The most difficult task that most women face is rest. Yep, rest. As high-achieving business owners, I found that we struggle to understand the power of rest and all that it can do for us and for our businesses. We can get into this go headspace where everything we do is about progress and growth and slaying it and hacking it and acceleration, which isn't a bad thing. We all want progress in our business, but sometimes we can get going at a speed that just is not sustainable. We're flying down the freeway and we can't take in the sights around us. We're not even noticing what's happening on our journey. We can't stop to admire the view or to have important conversations, and we definitely can't read the warning signs as they're coming at us. So that's why we need to talk about the power of rest for high-achieving women today, and why pumping the brakes and slowing it down just a touch can help you regain mental clarity, a deep understanding of your business journey, and a resounding connection and love for what you do. This is why I told you that story at the beginning of this episode about my personal experience hitting that wall of burnout to the point where I felt it so deeply in my body. We are so conditioned to believe that success comes from working harder and pulling longer hours. But at what cost? The cost of burnout, the cost of stress, the cost of exhaustion. maybe even the cost of making others, our team, our family, our friends, feel that as well? In my opinion, those costs are way too high. So I want to talk about what happens when we don't prioritize rest, why it's so critical to our success as women business owners, and how you can start building rest into your life and business without feeling guilty about it. And that's really key. So let's talk about what happens when you don't take the time to rest. So a story comes to mind, and that is the story of Simone Biles, the incredible world-famous gymnast. I've always loved watching the Olympics, and I'm always so amazed by the gymnasts. There's something just about the Olympics, about the pride that each country has in representing themselves and performing to their best of their ability, that really strikes a chord. And in particular, I always love watching the women's gymnastics. It's just incredible to see these dedicated young women who've trained their entire lives to be able to do these amazing tricks and flips and jumps. I just don't know how they do it. So I remember when the news broke in 2021 that Simone Biles, perhaps the most decorated and talented athlete of her time, she decided to step down from participating in the team competition. And oh my gosh, the backlash she received after making that decision, it just seemed like every person in the world had an opinion about whether or not she should compete, whether or not she was a terrible person for dropping out, and just opinion after opinion after opinion. All because this successful, high-achieving woman decided to step back and take the time she needed to rest. And later on, she revealed that she made that choice to step back from the team competition because her body literally could not take it anymore. She was experiencing what gymnasts call the spins. Now, this is where there's a disconnect between her body and her mind, making her unable to find up from down when she was doing her show-stopping flips. And it was to the point that she was in danger. The level she was performing at, the tricks she was attempting were so complex and so pioneering that she could risk serious injury if she didn't just stick them. She was experiencing this because of the immense amount of pressure on her, the expectations others had for her and those that she put on herself. And after training her entire life, this was the first time she intentionally decided to rest, to step back, to prioritize her mental health so that she could come back and show up stronger and start loving what she did again. Now, none of us here are probably Olympic athletes, and most of us who listen here to the show don't have the immense amount of pressure that Simone Biles did in preparing for the Summer Games. But each of us, as high-achieving women, experience this stress and pressure in our own way. And the cost of not taking breaks and prioritizing rest is burnout. It's experiencing the business owner's version of the spins. You do not want to get to that point because it's really hard to come back from that level of exhaustion. You reach a point where you're so drained that even the simplest tasks feel impossible. The mental load of always being on starts to weigh you down. And even if you started your business to create freedom to do the work you're passionate about, it can all start to feel like a chore. Because when you're running on empty, you stop loving what you do. And this extends to more than just your business. It extends to your whole life. If you're not making rest a priority, you'll find yourself wondering you started this journey in the first place. And if you know me, you know that that's what I'm about. I believe we should do what we love every day and love what we do every day. I believe we should wake up motivated and excited and energized about the work that we are doing and the clients that we're helping. That our business should fuel us. I love providing women business owners with the tools that let them do that by guiding them and providing them with the structures they need to make business easier. And I want to highlight just a couple of stories of members from inside the Her Business Network who felt that burnout, that exhaustion. These women were having the business version of the gymnast spins. And the first is our lovely member, Leanne Faulkner. She has been incredibly open with her story. And her story is very similar to the one I shared earlier in this episode. She was struggling to achieve her growth goals and felt that she had no control to turn things around. And as a result, she was completely exhausted. She didn't find joy in what she did anymore, and she decided to completely pivot. She made the decision to actually leave that business and take time for herself. Now she's an incredible advocate for small business owners' mental health. And if you'd like to know more about Leanne's story, we actually did an episode together here on the Her Business podcast all about mental health. I'll link that episode in our show notes. Another member who's experienced major burnout is the lovely Naomi Gora, and she said that she's experienced multiple times she's experienced burnout especially in the early days of her business. Now, she told me that she was sitting at her desk 3 days before Christmas in 2019, about to jump on a client call, she wasn't sure if she could physically make it through the call. That's how deep she felt the burnout, the exhaustion. But years later, she's learned to value herself and her services more, and she's now thriving, and she's leaving time for herself. Now, these two women have been through the worst of burnout. They've experienced the type of exhaustion that just tears you down. But both of them discovered methods that would let them rest, recharge, and then refocus their goals. Sure, maybe they had to turn a new direction or chart a new path, and maybe they had to start over, but they took the time and the space that they needed to rest and give themselves grace. Their stories show us that rest is not a luxury. Rest is a key ingredient in growth. I want to let you know also that I asked a question about this very topic, about rest and burnout, inside of our members group. And we have the most amazing discussions in there. And the thread of women going back and forth, sharing their stories and sharing how they got over this and started feeling more energized and motivated is amazing. So we've talked about rest. I hope by now you get how important I believe it is. What you're likely thinking is, Susie, I'd love to just take a nap right now, but if I take time to rest, my business would just not continue to run. Or maybe your sales would go down. Maybe your team needs you to be involved in all the decision making. Or maybe you don't have a team at all, so it all rests on your shoulders. So how do you take the time to deeply rest when you have so many responsibilities? Well, that is a great question. So let's jump into 5 of my favorite methods to actually integrate rest into your life. But before I get into these, it's important to note that burnout doesn't just get solved by drinking a cup of tea, if it's the most beautiful herbal tea, or going for a stroll. When you are this exhausted, when you are this burned out, it takes some time to recover. So even if you implement these 5 steps, please know that it can take time for you to feel the benefits. And so stay consistent with them and give yourself a little grace. Burnout and getting over it isn't always one and done. Burnout can ebb and flow, and it can be difficult to get rid of it completely. I've had quite a year. And there were many times where I felt like burnt to a crisp. I'm feeling great right now. Now, that's partly what inspired me to do this episode. So the first thing you want to do is reset your boundaries. And if you're anything like me, you can easily let your work take over your life, especially if you really love your business like I do. And your downtime can get swallowed up by everyone and everything else. So you really need to reframe your boundaries to honor your time and then to stick to the boundaries. And setting boundaries is not about being rigid. It's really more about the intention you have of how you want to spend your energy. So define your work hours, and they can be whatever you want. And just make yourself shut the laptop when you hit that time. Now, reshaping the culture of these boundaries also impacts your team, your clients, maybe even your family. People should know when they can and cannot reach you. So maybe, say you chose 6 p.m, your phone goes on to Do Not Disturb and you step away from the business to make dinner, to take a walk, to play with the dog, to do a hobby, to spend time with your loved ones. This helps you remember that you are not your business. You are a human being who is multifaceted with so many interests and relationships and connections. I know it may not feel like that right now, but stay with me. And you want to spend time on those as well as time in your business. So set those boundaries, protect your time, and stay as consistent as you possibly can. Now, my second tip follows a similar vein. I recommend scheduling your rest like it's a meeting. And I know it seems a little bit silly, but if you're a constant overworker, you need to do this to at least get you started. Because if you're a type A person like me, it doesn't happen if it's not in your calendar. And your rest needs to be prioritized just like the critical work that you have to do. So block out time in your calendar for activities that you love, activities that make you feel full and whole and present and more you. Maybe that means literally rest for you. I know some days I would just so love a nap. Or maybe it's reconnecting with an old friend who really knows you, getting out of the house and to that yoga class your friend has been pestering you about. Maybe it's taking time to sit with your emotions and let them out into a journal. Maybe you want to boost your accountability factor. Put it on a shared calendar. Maybe you have a shared work calendar with your team, or you can just share your personal calendar with a business buddy. Now, you don't need to tell your team that you're taking a candlelit bath or anything like that. You can just take that time as creative recharge or just not available or something similar. You do not have to feel guilty. And I know I felt that. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I can't not be working when my team is. Today I went to a networking lunch with some wonderful, wonderful women, and I was out for about 3 hours. And there is that little part of me that even now, even after everything I'm saying, still feels that little tinge that as soon as I got back to my desk, I had to answer all the emails and all the Slack threads and do all the things because I had taken this time out. Now, I was out at a business lunch. Whatever it is, right? We don't need to justify it. We just need to make sure that other people know that we're not available. So let people know that you're not available. Then you're going to feel more comfortable silencing the Teams or Slack ding on your phone when you're taking that intentional time out. Seeing that rest time in your schedule kind of legitimizes it. Even if you're the only one who can see it, you're going to be less likely to dismiss it when it's a committed part of your day. Right? So even if it's like, I want to walk more, I want to give myself more time to exercise, don't wait and see how you feel at the end of the day. Actually schedule that time to walk around the block or to go to the gym or to go to the yoga class or to sit and journal, any of the things we just talked about. Tip number 3 is probably going to hit home with you. High-achieving women often fall into the trap of thinking they need to do it all. But I always say, some things on your to-do list are not meant to be done by you, or sometimes they're not meant to be done at all. So delegate, automate, eliminate. What can someone else do? If you have a team, look at your to-do list and see which tasks could easily be done by someone else. And unless they're high-level tasks, they can probably be done by someone else. If you don't have a team, it might be worthwhile to hire a virtual assistant or just someone who will work with you just a few hours a week. And if you think saving time and saving money is more important, I encourage you to take a harder look at whether you're thinking like a CEO, like a business owner. Some business expenses are incredibly worthwhile, especially when they're giving you back your time, so that you can focus on high-level tasks. You can also automate a lot of things. And I know it takes time to set up systems and automations, but there's so much tech out there that'll do this for you. So you want to stop wasting time on repetitive tasks, time that you could be resting or time that you could be doing work that fuels you more. And the third thing is eliminating. I bet there are certain tasks that are overcomplicating your business. So maybe there's some things you can eliminate. Anything that's holding you up, anything that you don't really need to do. I mean, often I will look with women at their product service mix, and there's some things that they're putting attention to, mental attention, team attention, that are just not profitable. So they could probably be eliminated, and you could put that energy into the products and services people really want, the things that you really love to do, and free up your time. Now, every task you delegate, automate, or eliminate creates more space for you to rest and reconnect with your business at that higher level. And when I'm talking about rest can also be just feeling present. Feeling like you're in control, not feeling pulled like you're going in 10,000 directions. So let's move to tip number 4. And this one might be the game changer for you. You see, not all rest is created equal. Mindlessly scrolling through Instagram or binge watching a TV show might feel relaxing at first, but it doesn't always leave you refreshed or recharged, especially if you're not watching things that are pleasant, if you like. What you need is intentional rest. Intentional rest is about finding activities that are refilling your cup in a genuine way. Now, this could be something as simple as stepping out for fresh air or sitting out on your deck. Or maybe it's finally doing a hobby you love but never seem to make time for, whether that's gardening or painting or journaling, something creative, whatever it is for you. For me right now, I'm using Duolingo to learn Italian. And I'm not very far into it. I'm just a couple of weeks into it. But before the end of every day, I sit there, whether I'm in bed or on the couch, and I do just a little bit, enough to keep my streak going right now. And I'm on about, 21 days or something so far. So it's very early days. But just that little bit of doing that thing for me, it's fun. I'm making progress. It's gamified. It's giving me a little bit of a buzz as I learn some new words. So find what that thing is for you. Maybe it's playing the guitar. Maybe it's going to dance class, right? If you need to get yourself out. Maybe it is learning a new language. But those sorts of activities get you out of your work brain and can be the rejuvenation that you need. So for me, intentional rest also looks like getting outside. So walking along a stunning trail, getting my blood pumping, just me, maybe my dog, maybe my partner. It also looks like taking a couple of weeks to go travel the world and see other places on Earth. And that doesn't have to be overseas. If you don't have a big budget, it can be just going a couple of hours inland, north, south of where you are. Sometimes it looks like just sitting with a cup of tea and letting your thoughts wander without the pressure of problem solving or planning. I love that. And these kinds of activities allow your brain to shift gears, to stop running on overdrive and to get back into balance. The key here is, the word, I've said it twice already, is presence. Whatever you choose to do, be fully present in that moment. Try not to let your mind wander back to your emails or the other 47 things on your to-do list. You can never get it all done, right? That's the truth. We can't get it all done. So we may as well pause and take this moment that we have right now for us. This is your time to restore, not just your energy, but your creativity and your focus too. And finally, tip number 5 is taking the time to regularly reflect. Now, this one took me a long time to implement, but it's made a world of difference in how I approach both rest and work, and it's something that we do inside of Her Business. Life is dynamic, and so is your business. What works for you today might not work next month or next year. What worked last quarter might flop the next quarter. So you have to check in with yourself about both work and life. And so at the end of each week, ask yourself, how did I feel this week? Was I energized or running on fumes? Did I make time to rest and recharge? What can I schedule next week to create more balance? And quick check-ins with yourself can be really powerful. You can start to catch the small imbalances before they work themselves into bad habits. And because I'm Susie Daphnis and this is the Her Business podcast, make sure you're looking from the top down every 90 days. What I mean by that is, inside of Her Business, we work in these 90-day plans. Successful business owners use these 90-day periods to work on their businesses. That's why we, every quarter, meet with our members and work on our strategic plans. And those plans are around our money, our marketing, our mindset, different parts of our business. So check in with yourself now, review the last quarter, and then plan the next quarter. Trust me, if you don't do it already, it's a secret strategy that will transform your business. And it makes things so much clearer. You don't burn out because you don't try and bite off more than you can chew in a 90-day period. But what I love about the 90-day periods and why we have this cadence across Her Business is that 90 days is long enough to achieve some great things, but not so long that you get bored, right? Or that you think, oh gosh, yeah, I'll do it later, and you lose your momentum. So, sorry, I went a bit off track there, but it's really important. Now, I wanted to mention one more thing. If at any point during this podcast you've thought to yourself that prioritizing your rest equates to laziness or anything like that, or you feel guilty, just squash that thought right there. Or write to me and I'll help you squash it. As women, and especially as high-achieving women, we're often made to feel like rest is a luxury we can't afford and don't deserve. And society has conditioned us to equate productivity with worthiness. If I'm not constantly doing, creating, achieving, we can start to think, am I doing enough? Am I enough? And this mindset will sabotage you when you genuinely need rest and recharge and to rejuvenate. I know this creeps in for me. If I take a week off, I can start to feel guilty about it. I think of all the work that I could be doing instead. This happens on weekends sometimes too. But I've really trained myself to know that if I don't take the rest, I'll pay for it later, just like I did in the story at the very top of this episode. But I deserve time off. You deserve time off. You deserve rest. It doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't mean your business will fail. It does not make you worth any less than the version of yourself who works through the night. In fact, it highlights the respect that you have for yourself and your business. And our bodies, our minds, our souls need affirmation that we care. And when we are running ourselves ragged, we are not showing ourselves that we care. So as you go into the new year and things really start to amp up again, remember that rest is essential to any successful business. Remember that it will prevent the burnout, the exhaustion, and the stress, and it'll leave you more joy-filled and having a business that you actually love to work in. And if you feel like you don't have a community of other business owners around you and you'd like to get decades of knowledge on tap about all things business, I encourage you to grab a spot on the Her Business Network waitlist now. We're not open right now. We're not taking new members right now, but by getting on the wait list, you'll be the first to know when we open up spots. We have an incredible community of women business owners in Australia, New Zealand, and all around the globe. We're learning together, we're building great partnerships, and we're connecting. In fact, we're Australia's #1 network for women business owners who are looking to grow their businesses and get more clients. Now join me on the next episode. If you don't already subscribe to the show, hit follow, subscribe wherever you are, because I love doing this show for you. And what I love most is knowing that you've taken something away and you've put it into your business. So I appreciate you listening. And if you got something from today, if you're implementing something for today, would you let me know? You can email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. I answer every email. I love it when I get a comment from you, whether that is writing to me or whether you head on over to Apple Podcasts and you leave us a rating or a review. I absolutely love that. It makes my day, my week, my month when we get great reviews for the show. Now, I've mentioned a couple of different things here today, and so over on our show notes page at herbusiness.com/288, you'll find a summary of what we've covered today, as well as links to resources that we talked about. And as I said, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. If you can see a friend who's going totally downhill, who's burning herself out, then share this episode with her. And as this is our last episode for this year, I want to wish you the very, very best for an incredible 2025. I would love to support you, and my team would love to support you to expand into whatever the potential is for your business that's sitting right there untapped. I hope you get some incredible rest and some rejuvenation over this time of year, and I will see you in the new year. As I said, if you're new to the show, hit follow or subscribe, and join me next time right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.